My fiance asked me not to wear white at our wedding. Original post. I have been with my fiance, John, 28, male, since high school. We dated and broke up because his mother, Debbie, 53 famous, convinced him we were too young to be in love. We broke up and went to college. During my sophomore year, we started talking on socials again. He apologized and said he missed me. We got back together. Cue the waterworks. Debbie literally cried the first time she saw we were back together and told John that I have done witchcraft on him. I've always respected Debbie out of respect for my mother and upbringing. I was not raised to go back and forth with my elders, but she definitely abuses that. Since John and I decided to get back together, she has tried to hook him up with women from her church, her job, and even asks her friends for their daughters to give it a shot. John denies all of them, and Debbie says that I'm controlling. John has told her to stop, but not in the way I feel she gets the point. Anyway, 3 months ago, John proposed. Deb didn't come to the engagement party. Cool. She didn't come to the family dinner we had so both sides could meet. Cool. John's dad came and apologized for his ex's behavior. He left her when John graduated high school. I told him, don't worry about it. The problems really began when John decided to confront his mother about how she's behaving toward our whole engagement. This turned on the light bulb in his brain, as he's always tried to ignore it and tell me to ignore her. She gave him a sob story about how she got pregnant with him before marriage and never really got to have a wedding. And this is triggering her. She had a shotgun wedding at the courthouse. He asked her what she needed to feel comfortable, and she responded that if she wore white and I wore a soft pink or lavender, she would feel comfortable. My fiance, for some reason, though this was a fair compromise, he also said, not asked, that his mom could walk me down the aisle so she can get her moment in her dress. I told him absolutely not, and we got into an argument about it. I told him that it's insane that he would argue with me to defend this mom's honor, but wouldn't do the same the other way around. He accused me of being petty and selfish. It was bad. We both have agreed to cool off, but by how heated it got, I could tell we both almost agreed to call it off. Now we're in a weird space, and I love John, but now see how much he lets her impact our life. I just imagine her sitting at home with this evil grin, knowing she's ruining my relationship with John, and he's just putty in her hands. I think I should just call off the wedding. AIO? Or is it just a color? Well, listen, we kick off in 5 to 10 minutes without really being involved personally. So we must have a conversation first. Now, for the update. Hey, everyone. Not sure if this is the update everyone wanted, but this is what happened since my last post. I laid out a couple of talking points that I couldn't articulate over the rage. I met up with John after work at home. I was at the gym letting off steam. We spoke on everything and made plans to speak to his mother. John came home remorseful. He told me he was anxious about it and brought it up to a coworker/friend about how I don't want to comprise. Apparently his friend, God bless his soul, went off on him about him being cringy. This angered me. So when I say it's a problem, but another man tells you, and now you see the other side, I brought up my talking points. Him being easily being manipulated. This was also proved when I said he would listen to whatever another man said before his partner. Even though his friend agreed with me, it hurt that he didn't listen to me. His mom going out of her way to break us up with the silly request. He was way more open to this theory now, knowing how cringe he looks, even telling this situation to someone else. I compared it to a father removing a bride's wedding garter. He got the point. Him agreeing to his mom's crazy request before even talking to me. He claimed he didn't, and he told her he'll see how I feel about it and just brought it up to me. I asked, why did he not see that his mother walking down the aisle on his wedding day was extremely creepy? He said it's just a dress in his eyes. He just didn't want his mom to miss the wedding. I told him there will be no wedding if he doesn't straighten up. He said he understood. Me showing him how blatantly obvious it was she hates me. She didn't even ask to wear white alongside me, which is still weird, but that I don't wear white at all, as if I'm some impure whore. Thanks, Reddit, because I wasn't even thinking of that one. He said he didn't see it that way. He just knew she hasn't been showing up because she said seeing me in white hurts her. So I said, do you not hear your own mom saying she wants to be the bride herself, that she can't stand it being me? It finally looked like a ding went off in his head. Me asking him what role would she play in our wedding, childbirth, Mother's Day, and everything to come. Would I always come second place? He assured me I wouldn't, and he realizes how bad he fucked up. He was just trying to keep the peace. I asked by always making her happy and making me miserable. I refused to live my life this way. He agreed and said he was sorry and that he wouldn't want me to be miserable. We have no children yet, but we created a plan and how to deal with any big milestone. She won't be there for anything unless I'm comfortable with it, and I won't be unless she does a 180. I asked what did his mom say to change his mind, and you all guessed it. She cried. She cried about how her baby was getting taken away from her, how she never got her wedding, how his dad left her and she was alone and had no one else, that she felt sick and just wanted to experience a real wedding before she dies. She is perfectly healthy unless there's something she hasn't told us. I just told him. If that was enough to manipulate him, ha, what's to say he won't turn on me again? He said his friend and dad talked sense into him about how he was going to lose me. Even say so, don't they? I told him today was the last straw for me. He had to do 4 things to keep me engaged to him. If he even cared to, I wouldn't want to use him to support me. Go LC with his mom and do not let her make any decisions on our wedding, which will be postponed another year to see if he actually sticks to his word. He has to go to counseling, individually and couples counseling. He has to speak to his mom with me present about her behavior toward me, because every time he goes by himself, he comes back with a reason why he left it alone. He must create strong boundaries and learn to uphold them. He agreed. Then came the bad part. I showed him the post. I felt so bad as he read everyone rip him to shreds in the comments. I could see how uncomfortable he was as he read how much of a mama's boy he was and other things about his mom. He was hurt that I agreed that I should leave in some comments. He read for a few minutes until he saw someone call him a spineless see you next Tuesday and then gave my phone back. He said it was really harsh, but I had to show him how crazy the situation sounded, even if it was just to keep the peace on a surface level. Him reading the post was icing on the cake. He said he saw everyone telling me to leave, and his heart physically started hurting, knowing that he deserved it. He called his dad, who I'm no longer calling future father-in-law, because I will call this wedding off tomorrow if he doesn't have my back when we speak to his mom. John's dad, Dan, who I'll name since he's a big part of this update. Dan also read John to the riot act again. He was relieved John decided to get his act together. We agreed to go to Deb's house tomorrow with Dan and John's aunt. My dad is tagging along. John has said he will tell his mother that she can't, under any circumstances, make our wedding about her. He also said if she does cry or try to guilt trip him, he will tell her he's going no contact. I feel terrible, as getting a man to stop talking to his mother isn't something I ever thought I even wanted. I doubt Debbie will come around, especially not tomorrow with all of us against her. I don't know if John will backtrack as soon as he gets there. I have explained if he doesn't grow a spine, I'm leaving. He either can marry me or marry his mom, but that's my ultimatum. He said he chooses me. We'll see, I guess. This all should make me happy, but I still feel icky. I'll update tomorrow after we all talk to Debbie. Story 2. Am I the asshole for refusing to go to confession so I can take communion in my brother's wedding? The original post? I have 3 siblings, 40 male, 38 female, 27 male, and we have a good relationship despite the age gaps between some of us. My older siblings are both married, and so am I. The wedding in question is my younger brother's. My younger brother, Luke, is engaged to his GF of a year, Emma. She is nice, I guess, but we have never really clicked and are just polite to each other. Something important is that we are all Catholic, but not really hardcore ones, and some of us are even lapsed. I do believe this whole situation started just when I met her for the first time. I look younger than Luke, and it has always been a sibling joke that I am truly the baby of the family. Most people that meet us assume he is older than me, but nobody has had issues with it until Emma. The day I met her, she kind of scoffed when I said I was happy the baby had a proper girlfriend. She has this weird thing about being the eldest in her family and refused to believe I was older than her until I showed her my ID. She has been hot and cold with me since then, often infantilizing me or trying to have a sort of boss attitude. Dose. I just let her be and usually ignore her since I have no time to try and beg for her friendship, so I am just polite and civil. Always include her when planning stuff, but don't really make an effort. Last month, she bought special food for me for Christmas. Not to mention what was the month before, and the month before, she bought me special food for Christmas. I took the plate, puddled forward, and threw a lemon limer in the bowl. The family knows about it, but we just shrugged it off as different personalities. Then the wedding planning started. Emma decided I could not be in the wedding party since I was not married in a church, fine by me. Then she requested that immediate family submits their dress plannings so she could check it fits the wedding dress code. Fine, whatever. Do you see where this is going, I hope? You'll see. I have not gone to confession or have communion in more than a decade. If I go to a mass for whatever reason, I am respectful and simply sit or stay standing. During the rites, I don't participate on. Well, this is not good enough for her, and she says, I need to take communion during their wedding. I said no, and she has not taken it well. For the most part, I avoid her, as I said before. But this time, I wasn't going to say yes or risk an issue. I told her for taking communion, one needs to go to confession, and I didn't want to. She said all immediate family's doing it, and it will look bad if I don't. I told her, sure, fine, then I'll just go have communion in front of everybody, but won't do confession. She said, if this was going to be my attitude, I was uninvited from the wedding because I clearly wanted to ruin the day for her. I turned to my brother and told him thanks, gave him a thumbs up, and went home. My family understand my reasoning and said they respect everybody's choices, but I shouldn't have said what I said. I told them I really don't want to go to the wedding anymore, and I don't owe Emma explanations on my life. I only called my grandma because she heard what happened and asked me not to disrespect the church by doing the communion without confession. I promised I wouldn't do it, and she is fine with me now. I got a text from my brother wanting to compromise, so I replied by asking if the other lapsed people are being made to take confession too. He said no, because it was only nuclear family members. I find it funny since all the others are clearly older than her, and she just behaves like this with me and the youngsters. Am I the SL? Now for the update. State 1. Things have moved, but I wouldn't call any of this a positive progress. I would like to clear something I kept seeing in the comments. I won't request a special blessing or go in the queue for communion. It isn't about the blessing or the compromise, but the singling me out. I often just stay quiet or take a general family blessing if we go to weddings, etc. I have no issue with compromises. I have an issue with Emma and her ridiculousness. I don't know why she has this thing with me. I do look young, but not like a teen or a child, obviously. She has 2 younger sisters and is very authoritative with them. I have witnesses her being very my way or the highway with younger people, so she has issues for sure. The confrontation from the last post was on Tuesday, and today we had lunch at my grandma's. I think you should also know that my brothers have a tricky relationship, as in they are not as close with each other as they are with other siblings. My older brother Robert is very no-nonsense, and he has never been a fan of Emma, but he didn't think he should have to intervene because Luke is an adult and capable of navigating relationships. All this is going to be relevant, I promise. We visit Grandma a lot since she lives by herself, and we truly enjoy her company. Today, we were all there because she is over this drama already. After a lunch, that was more like snacking, to be honest, she asked us all to clear the air. Emma continued with her rant about me being a disrespectful person, and that she was asking the bare minimum from me. My grandma asked her why she had no issue with her not taking communion, and Emma said that she was her elder, and for sure her reasons were more than a tantrum, like it was in my case. She also repeated that she was asking this of all the siblings, and I was the only one that was being difficult with her tiny request. This is where everything crumbled for her. I mentioned in the comments that Robert is also lapsed, and he was already exhausted by this situation. He asked her why she had no issues with him not taking communion, and she looked like a kid that was caught. She didn't have a proper answer. Robert then asked her if she even knew why he and Grandma became lapsed. She shook her head and looked at Luke for help. Luke, on the other hand, was staring angrily at Robert and but said nothing. Robert explained to Emma he was the reason Grandma became lapsed. When Robert was a teen, he came out as gay and was so worried about her grandparents' reaction since they were very active in the Catholic Church. Grandma felt awful about it, and even worse, when she went and spoke about this with the then priest of her church, that priest was super old school and told her that Robert was committing sins, he was going to hell, he needed to find his way, the whole 9 yards. Now, Grandma didn't take that so well and simply stopped going to church and started spending that time with her grandchildren. Over the years, she started getting into the whole community again, but she decided she was done taking the sacraments. She respects parts of the church, but can't fully reconcile with it. Emma was a bit confused since Robert is married to a woman, and he explained he is bisexual and ended up with a woman, just as he could have ended with a man. He also commented they are not married in the church, but that didn't matter to her like it mattered when it came to me. He asked her directly, what was her problem with me? Long story short, she said I was rude since the beginning and kept treating Luke wrong. Oh, and I also was very snarky about looking younger than her. Crickets. She is a beautiful, successful woman, so I still don't understand her obsession, but it seems like she wants people to see I respect her and what she says. I just started laughing. She started crying and saying I turned my grandma against her. My grandma told her to stop blaming people for her being a negative person, and she was always going to side with me over her. Luke got upset at that and asked her why she was not supporting him. And she simply said she doesn't support him being a lapdog for a crazy woman. More was said, nothing got truly resolved. I was kind of invited again, but declined going. Grandma is undecided if she even wants to go at all. My older siblings told Luke they will go to the ceremony if he seeks couples therapy or at least therapy. My parents are having headaches and now dislike Emma so much they can't hide it. And yes, Grandma spoke with the priest and he wants them to do extra premarital counseling or he won't officiate. I hope they don't get married, but he is old enough to derail his life if he wants. I thank you for letting me vent, and my grandma loved the Pope joke. Update 2. My brother has gone too far and I decided to be done with him. He made our grandma cry and I think permanently damaged a lot of his relationships. I want to mention some of my cousins and other family members thought I was just stubborn and creating drama, but now there is no longer my side or Emma's side. Maybe he always felt this way, but the issue he has with Robert is absolutely ridiculous. So he was so upset with what Grandma said about him being Emma's lapdog that he called her to speak about it. I was obviously not present for the conversation, but Grandma told me what happened and Luke confirmed it. He told her that it was unfair of me to ask Robert for help since he was her favorite grandchild and would get her to side with me no matter how wrong I was. He also told her that many of the cousins believed this and that it was so obvious since she even left her religion for him. He claimed the other LGBTQ plus members of the family, most were not even born when Robert came out, by the way, doubted if she would do it for them. Anyway, so Grandma explained to Luke and then called every single one of her grandchildren to ask them how they felt and explain to each a part we didn't know. She said that when Robert came out and she spoke with the old priest, he hinted about knowing of places to set Robert straight. Grandma had heard horror stories from these places and so had Robert, and they both spoke with my parents together about that not being an option at all. When Robert was little, he was careful, only leaving the nose, shorts, and tank tops on with the legs over his waist. My parents never intended to send Robert there and are very casual Catholics, but Grandma wanted to cover the bases just in case. I was told Grandma sounded like she had been crying on the phone, and after the first couple of calls, which went from oldest to youngest, the group chat started to blow. Robert is livid. Our LGBTQ plus cousins are livid and say Luke lied. Even the cousins that were telling me to stop being a stubborn head are livid. So by the time I was up for my call, I was already on the way to Grandma's. 2 of my cousins were already there, and the youngest one, Sarah, 16 female, was ready to literally fight Luke. For a bit of levity, Sarah is about 35 cm smaller than Luke, and the image of her swinging at him made me laugh a bit. She asked if I was making fun of her, and I just explained the whole mental image of her trying to hit him, and she admitted it was kind of funny. I've been told what I didn't tell her is I would love to slap some sense into Luke. My grandma has been through so much in her life, and this is not what we want for her. She looks puffy-faced and kept asking everybody if they truly felt unloved by her, saying she would do everything for any of us, explaining how Robert was the oldest grandchild, but that didn't mean she loved the rest any less. She is a strong woman, but I think something inside her broke a little with the thought she hurt her grandchildren. It was a shit show, a big one. And I was just so done with Luke. My parents have been passive towards the situation so far because I asked them to, but after they heard what happened, they told him they need time away from him. Robert is simply disgusted and decided to not speak with him anymore, which he communicated through the cousin group chat, with Luke's response being that this is why Emma's help on reigning all this would be so beneficial if we just let her. He also added how Robert never cared for him or anybody really, and he just tried to be the center of attention all the time. He cited his coming out, his announcement he was going to marry a woman, the birth of his child. It was ridiculous. He came out when Luke was a toddler, and for many years, only our parents and grandparents knew. He announced he was going to marry his now wife through a text, but didn't interfere or took from anybody. His child was born 4 months before Luke's graduation, and apparently that was a big issue for Luke that he never commented. Maybe I am biased. Maybe I am selfish, like Emma claims, but I call bullshit on his tantrum. Every single one of the cousins has been helped, babysat, tutored, gotten out of trouble, you name it, by Robert. He isn't perfect, but he isn't the conniving ass Luke is claiming. Maybe Luke has always felt inadequate and we didn't notice. Maybe it was his last-ditch effort. Maybe Emma has manipulated him so far that he can't come back. It doesn't matter anymore. If he does marry Emma, I wish him the best. If he doesn't, I hope he goes to therapy. Regardless of what he decides, he burned so many bridges and hurt so many people. I don't see this resolving anytime soon. For now, I will focus on my grandma and making her feel better. I feel extremely guilty because Emma's situation with me that opened this can of worms. I know I shouldn't, but it's hard not to.